Hey guys, um, I am here to record a Bible video. It's kind of late at night, so I may not be able to get too loud, but we're in 1 Samuel 26. If you remember back in 1 Samuel 25, Samuel has died, and David was still, from chapter 24, David had caught Saul in a cave and explained to him, but he said, "Who's telling you that I want to kill you? They're lying. I'm trying saying this for the men." And Saul repented for the second time, or at least claimed he wasn't trying to kill David anymore for the second time. But David, as you notice, didn't go home. Let's see what happened to Saul. Let's see what happens in chapter 26. Verse 1 of chapter 26. Now the Ziphites came to Saul at Gibeah and said, "Is David not hiding in the hill of Hachilah opposite Jeshimon?" So these Ziphites come to him again. These guys are always trying to be the tattletales and make trouble. They were the ones that went to Saul before and told him that David was hiding in the wilderness of Ziph. They come to Saul again. Saul before had said to them, "Oh, how wonderful and how blessed you are." Those are the same people. And so Saul went there, and he went down there to look for David. This is the third time that he's, he's already repented twice. Repented. Verse 2, then Saul arose, went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men with him. How many men did David have with him, if you remember? It was originally 400, then became 600. Now he's 600 men with him. So he's looking for David. And Saul encamped in the hill of Hachilah, which is opposite Jeshimon by the road. And David stayed in the wilderness, and he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. So he came near Jeshimon where David was, but not quite the same place. And he encamped all his men there, probably to set up some sort of attack or something. Verse 5, so David arose and came to the place where Saul had encamped, and David saw the place where Saul lay, and Abner son of Ner, and the commander of an army. Now Saul lay within the camp, and all the people encamped were all around him. Okay, so this is such a quick verse, but you need to kind of get an appreciation for this verse. What this means is David came at night, right? It's nighttime. All the soldiers in the camp are asleep. And Saul is sleeping in the middle. And he has Abner, who Abner is a relative of Saul. And Abner is his general. He's his general and his bodyguard. The guy who protects the king, and he runs the whole army. Abner's right there next to him. And men would have spread out all around him. They would have been sleeping with their heads outward, with a spear either in their hands or next to their head. And the king's in the middle. And all these 3,000 men are in concentric circles all around, or at least a group of them are all around the king. And David says, let me go for a little visit and just go in here. Picture the bravery of David. If you knew there were 3,000 men who wanted to kill you, and you saw them and said they were asleep, would you think, let me just go walk into the camp, just walk in the middle, just tiptoe in there and see what happens? I'd be like, no way. But David goes to the camp, and he actually goes right next to Saul and finds out where Saul is laying, right there. I think part of this is David is just fed up. You can see at the end of the chapter he's just fed up, and he's just, let's just do it. Let me just go over and see what happens. So he goes, and he rose, and so he sees the place, and so he had said, who will go down with me to the camp? He said to Ahimelech the Hittite and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, these two people, Ahimelech and Abishai. Now, interestingly, Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, brother of Joab. Zeruiah is a sister of David, I guess, and so Abishai is actually one of David's nephews. Now, him being David's nephew doesn't mean that he's like way younger than David, because remember, David's siblings are all way older than him. David's like the youngest one. So, Abishai is his nephew, but he might be the same age as him. Who knows? and Joab is one of the brothers. There's three of these brothers: Abishai, Joab, and Asahel, and the three of them are nephews of David, and they're all three gonna have some part to play, especially Joab, but he comes later. But so Abishai and Ahimelech, who is a Hittite, remember, Hittite, he's not an Israelite. So he's a foreigner. So again, these are David's men. He's bringing people, and people are joining his cause who aren't even Israelites. So this is the kind of dynamic personality that David has. And he's a well-known person, well known for his heroics, and he's just being brave and being courageous, and he's the type, and people are just attracted to him and brought to him. And so he's even a Hittite who is maybe one of the in debt and discontented and distressed, who's there, and so he says to these two guys, "Hey, one of you guys want to come with me?" Abishai, his nephew, says, "I'll go." Verse 7. So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and Saul lay sleeping within the camp, and a spear stuck in the ground by his head, and Abner and all the people lay around him. They were in those concentric circles. And so he has a spear stuck in his head, stuck in his head, stuck next to his head. He's like on the ground. They stuck him in the ground so that he would be able to wake up and grab it really quickly. This is the same spear, remember, that he had tried to thrust at David a couple different times before. I think it's 3 times, twice in one day or something like that, and then one other time, something like that. 2 or 3 times. David knows that spear well. It's been thrust at him several times, and he goes right up to him. And Abishai says to David, I'm assuming very quietly because it's pitch black at night and they're in the middle of the camp, he says, God has delivered your enemy into your hand this day. Now therefore, please let me start. So he brings up the fact that God had told him, just like in the cave, God had told him before, I'm going to deliver your enemy into your hand to let you do with him what you want. And basically God saying, not just like, hey, some guy, and you're like, I don't know if I should trust him. It's God saying, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do with Saul whatever you want to do. And Abishai says, this is that opportunity. David, take your opportunity. Remember what this means. If you strike Saul down, you go back home. You get to go see your family. You don't have to be on the run anymore. You don't have to fear for your life. All of this trouble can be over. 1 second. And here's the thing. He knows that David in the cave was really hesitant to do it. And so he says to him, verse 8, therefore let me do it. Let me strike him at once with the spear. He said, I won't even use my weapon. I'll take his spear, strike him right to the earth. He goes, I won't even have to strike him a second time. He even knows that David cares about Saul. And he goes, I'll be merciful. I'll just go straight through. I won't even have to do it a second time. It won't be like I'll be sitting there stabbing him a million times. I'll just run once right to the important area that will kill him right away. It'll be a quick death. And he's like trying to convince David of just let me kill him. And picture how tempting it would be for David right now. This is Saul. Saul is wrongfully trying to kill David. David knows. Not by like his own, I think I'm right. No, God has basically told him, David, you're right. Saul is wrong. Saul is wrongfully trying to kill you. You are innocent of what Saul is accusing you of. All these people in Israel think that you're a traitor, think that you're, a backstabber, think you're a renegade. He's destroyed your name. You can clear your name. You don't have to be on the run anymore. And all that goes away, and it's all brushed to the side. You don't even have to do it. Your buddy right here, your nephew, said, I'll do it for you. And the biggest kicker, remember, God is allowing him to do it. He said, I'm going to deliver him to you, and you can do whatever you want with him. God is giving him this blank check of you can do it if you want to. It would be so tempting. Wouldn't it be tempting? I mean, this guy has destroyed him and destroyed his life. But David said to Abishai, do not destroy him, for who can stretch out his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? Because David has such a respect for somebody, even if he's no longer the Lord's anointed, because David is. The fact that he was one day the Lord's anointed, David's like, I don't want to take. And I guarantee you, last chapter, think about what happened last chapter with Abigail and Nabal. David was going to strike Nabal down, and Abigail came to him and convinced him not to. One of the things that she convinced him not to was like she was saying, David, think about your legacy. Think about everything you have going on. And she said, God is going to be faithful. Let me bring it back to the previous chapter. If you have your Bible, go back to the chapter with Abigail in it, the prior chapter 25. She says when she's pleading with him, sorry, one second. I'm finding the right verse. He spoke to you and appointed the ruler. She's saying to him, she fell at his feet, and she says, verse 30 and 31, I guess, is getting to the point of what I'm trying to say. And it shall come to pass when the Lord has done for my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you. So she had previously talked about different good things that God's going to do to you. And he's appointed you ruler over Israel. So she said, when you're king, God, David, and God has done all these good things for you, that this, meaning killing Nabal, will be no grief for you, nor offense of heart to my Lord, either that you have shed blood without cause, or that my Lord has avenged himself. She's saying, think about this, David. You're going to be king someday. And this is going to bug you. If you go and kill Nabal right now and kill all the servants and everything and take out your vengeance upon him, she's like, it's going to bother you someday. It's going to stick with you. And even though you're justified in killing Nabal, it's probably going to bug you. She said, instead, just let God take care of it. Because if God takes care of it, you're not guilty anymore. You won't feel guilty. You won't feel bad. You won't doubt and say, should I have done that? Should I not have done that? Did I go too far? She said, just let God handle it. Because she said, my Lord has dealt with, she said, but when my Lord has dealt with my Lord, she's talking about when God has dealt with Nabal, remember me. Because she basically was saying, God's going to deal with him. God's going to judge him. And God's going to take care of him. Instead of you taking care of him, let God do it. So that way there you can just throw up your hands. So now, jumping back to chapter 26, verse 9 and 10, David is saying, don't, he's the Lord's anointed, don't touch him. And then verse 10, David said, furthermore, as the Lord lives, the Lord shall strike him, or his day shall come to die, or he shall go out to battle and perish. He's saying, you know what? He's going to die. God's going to either judge him, he's going to strike him down, or his day is going to come that he's just going to die of natural causes, or he goes out to battle and he's going to die. One of those things is going to happen. He's going to die. I know he's going to die, and I'm going to just let God take care of it. I'm going to leave it in God's hands. So I know that he learned from the previous chapter, from Abigail's wonderful, wonderful example, being a godly, humble, wise woman. And here he says, nope, we're just going to the camp looking, and we're not going to kill him. But instead, look what he does. Very interesting in verse 11. The Lord forbid that I should stretch my hands out to the Lord's anointed. Please take now the spear and the jug of water that are by his head, and let's go. So David took the spear and the jug of water that's by David's head. Some people think the jug of water was almost used as a pillow. So picture how bold you have to be to take not only the spear, but take the jug of water that's either by his head or even underneath his head, if it was like used as a pillow, some people think. And so, but it says, but no man saw it or knew it or awoke, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord had fallen. God had put these guys to sleep. Now David goes back on the other side and stood on the hill far off, a great distance being between them. So this is going to be, and it says, and David called out to the people and to Abner, saying, do you not answer, Abner? And Abner answered, who are you calling out to the king? And David said to Abner, are you not a man? And who is like you in Israel? Why then so let's back up. Let's unpack this a little bit. So David takes the spear and the jug of water, goes to the opposite hill, and he starts calling up the king and calling up Abner. He said, Abner, Abner, hey Abner. And Abner finally wakes up out of it. And, picture, you're kind of groggy when you're waking up. You don't really know what's going on. If somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night, I'm sure you're like, huh? And then he wakes up and is like, hello, how are you? And like ready for conversation, Everybody's like, what? What's going on, huh? And somebody, picture waking up to somebody screaming your name from far away, like yelling angrily. And David kind of either angrily or antagonistically, he's yelling, Abner, hey, Abner, and yelling his name. And Abner wakes up. He's like, after a few times, like, what? Well, what's going on? What's going on? And David basically starts insulting him, saying, what, you think you're a man? You think you're tough? You call yourself, come on, buddy. You think you got toughness? And he's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He goes, listen, you're in a position to guard the king. And it's really interesting what David's tact is here. He says, your job is to guard the king. Oh, it's frozen. Well, I'm going to keep going. If for some reason the screen goes black or something for a minute, I'm just going to keep going. Hopefully it comes back. I don't know if it'll come back or not, but hopefully it comes back. But anyway, he says to him, your job is to guard the king, Abner. That's your one job. You have one job to do. And he didn't do it. He says, and Abner's probably thinking, what do you mean, guard the king? And he's looking over at Saul. Saul's right next to him. He's like, I don't understand what you mean. My job is to guard the king. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing it. What do you mean? He's probably thinking really confused. And David, who again they don't know it's David at this point yet, but he says to him, why then have you not guarded the king? And he probably, maybe when he first heard that, he looks over to Saul and sees Saul okay. And he's like, oh, okay, good. He goes, for one of the people came in to destroy your lord the king. So he probably got worried for a minute. Oh no, somebody came in to destroy Saul. And so David keeps antagonizing him. He goes, this thing that you've done is not good. As the Lord lives, you deserve to die, Abner. He's really coming down hard on Abner. And because you have not guarded your master, the Lord's anointed. And so all these things come, and maybe Abner might be a little bit, not suspicious, but he doesn't really believe it as much at first. But then David says a key word there. David says a key word. He says, and to prove that he knows what he's talking about, he says, and see now, where is the king's spear and where is the jug of water that was by his head? He goes, yeah, if you don't believe me, hey, look at the king's spear and the king's jug of water. And I'm sure all eyes went and looked over there, and they see a hole in the ground where the spear was and the jug of water gone. And they're like, oh my goodness, he's telling the truth. And so it's like shocking. They're all speechless. And the first one to speak is Saul, because he recognizes who that is. He says, is that your voice, David? He goes, is that you over there calling? Because again, it's pitch black night. And David says, it is me. Yes, it's me, King Saul. And I love this because David's so graceful. He says to Saul, why does my Lord thus pursue his servant? What have I done? What evil is in my hand? And listen to this. Now, therefore, please let my Lord the king hear the words of the servant. If the Lord has stirred you up against me, let him accept an offering. Okay, so listen to what he does. Previously, in a previous chapter, David had said to the king, David obviously knows that Saul is coming against him because Saul is really jealous and Saul is really stirred up after what he wants. But the previous time he said, Saul, he gave him an, he knows Saul is a defensive, people-pleasing, insecure person. So if him coming to Saul and saying, Saul, you're wrong, God's going to judge you for it, he knew he wouldn't get anywhere with Saul. He's trying to take an easy tact and kind of ease Saul into it and give Saul a way, an excuse almost. And sometimes, not that you should really give people excuses, but sometimes you have to be careful with how you approach people. Some people need to be approached in a more gentle way. And so Saul, the first time he says to Saul, did somebody say something about, I don't know if somebody told you something, and it kind of gives Saul a reason to be like, well, yeah, maybe I've heard things, but, oh, okay, you're not trying to kill me? Oh, okay, that's great. So he kind of gives him an excuse there the first time. Saul, I don't know if somebody is saying lies about me, but hey, they're not true. So Saul could have a chance to be like, oh, okay, good. That's good to hear, David. Now he does the same thing here. David says, hey, Saul, if I've done something against you, I have an idea. Let me give an offering to God. That way, there, um, you know, we'll get this whole thing taken care of. Maybe now you remember the Levitical sacrifices we went over earlier in the year. The trespass offering was if you were to do something against someone, like you know, offend them or make them, maybe I don't know, do something against them, hurt them in some way, you would be able to give an offering to God, a trespass offering to God, and that would kind of cover over it. David's basically going like, "Hey, if I've done something wrong, let me give you, you do this trespass offering, go through the thing, publicly say that I was wrong, and that I did something wrong, and we'll make amends. Basically, a public show of, hey, I'm gonna apologize publicly. Everybody will see me apologizing, and we can just be good, and we can just move on. Does that sound good, Saul? And think about how humble and how gracious David is. He knows he did nothing wrong, but he's willing to take that for Saul to publicly apologize just to get this whole thing behind him. I mean, the unbelievable graciousness of David. And so he gives him this opportunity here. But if it is the children of men, verse 20. So now do not let my blood fall to the earth before the face of the Lord, for the king in Israel has come out to seek a flea as one who hunts a partridge in the mountains. He compares himself to a flea. Obviously, you get the comparison there of calling him something small. A partridge. Partridges are like the lowest of the birds. They would hunt. They would sometimes hunt them by just chasing them around, because partridges are kind of like little fat birds, and they don't really fly very well. So what they would do is that they would just kind of go out and chase them around, because the birds they don't fly well, so flying takes a lot of effort for them, and so they would just tire them out. They'd just chase them around, how they hunt the birds, and they would eventually just tire them out so much that they would just be too tired to fly. So guys would just walk right up and just kill them, and that's how you hunted a partridge. And so David compares himself to like a nothing. Like I'm nothing. You coming to kill me? I'm a nobody. I'm not like a lion that's some sort of like great catch. I'm just a nobody. And so again, this is David humbling himself, even though he's the hero. He's like well known throughout all of Israel as like the Navy SEAL, a great commander, whoever you could think of as like the world's most important general. Oh, it looks like I'm back. The most important general in the country. That's what David is considered right now, but yet he's humbling himself, saying, "Oh, I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody." Verse 21, and Saul says, "I have sinned." You've heard this before. "Return, my son David, for I will harm you no more, because my life was precious in your eyes this day. Indeed, I have played the fool and erred exceedingly." So he apologized again. He said, "I have sinned. I and remember he said this before when they were in the cave, when he came out of the cave. He goes, I've sinned. I've sinned. I've been wrong. Return with me, please. I promise I won't harm you anymore." David's response, pretty funny. David says, "Well, here's the king's spear. Let one of the young men come over and get it." David's not a fool. David's not saying, "Oh, okay, you want me to return, king? Okay, I'm gonna walk right over." No, he's like, "Okay, that's okay. I forgive you. Now send somebody over to come get the spear. I'm not going over there." You know what I mean? It's like saying, one of those people, if somebody has like a big pit bull or something like that, and let's say the big mean dog has like bit you before or something. Let's say I'm walking on the street, and the owner and some owner has a dog, and the dog bites me or something. And then a couple months pass, and I see the person again, and they say from afar off, "Hey, I just want to let you know that dog went through obedience school, and the dog is a nice dog now and everything. But hey, here's your newspaper. I saw your newspaper on the sidewalk." I'd be like, you know what? Throw it over. Just keep the dog over there. I know he went through obedience school and everything. That's fine. I'm very happy for him. But you know what? Keep that dog over there. You can just chuck the newspaper over, or keep your distance if they're just walking by or something. So he says, yeah, send a young man over. Send one of your younger people to come over and get it. I'm not coming over there. And so Blah, 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 blah. And so David is saying, let the Lord repay each man for his righteousness and his faithfulness. For the Lord delivered you into my hand today, but I would not stretch you out my hand against the Lord. So no, he said, I pray that God is going to reward righteousness because I didn't do the wrong thing here. So he's kind of hinting toward him that God will reward righteousness, and I think he's hinting to Saul, you need to act the right way, and God will see that. And indeed, as your life was valued much this day in my eyes, so let my life be valued much in the eyes of the Lord, and let him deliver me out of all tribulation. And Saul said to David, may you be blessed, my son David. You shall do great things, and also still prevail. And guess what happens? And so they both leave, and where did they go? Saul returned home, and David does not. And we're going to see, remember I've mentioned before, David's life is a roller coaster. Okay? He's been up and down and up and down. I remember the last down point was he was pretending, he lied and said to the priest, because he wasn't really trusting God as much as he should have been in that circumstance. He lied and said to the priest, do you have any food here? Oh, a secret mission from Saul. And then he got, do you have any weapons here? And he got the sword of Goliath, all the good that it did Goliath. And then he went to Gath and tried to hide. If you can picture somebody going through and trying to hide and walk around and nobody see him, but they were of course recognized. Means one of the most recognizable people is the whole country knows him, the whole area of the world knows him. So he had to pretend to be a madman. But then after that, he gets right with the Lord when the priest's son there, Abiathar, I believe his name is, or Abiathar, comes, and he has the ephod there, and he gets right with the Lord and says, God, I'm so sorry. And that's when he's seeking after the Lord again. So he's on the upswing then. He's seeking after the Lord. Do you want me to go defend the Kenites from the Philistines attacking them? And he's inquiring of the Lord. But now we're going to see a downward spiral. You see, David's very emotional. And we can all be emotional. If you read the Psalms, you hear a person in the Psalms who is a very emotional person. He has such joy, overwhelming joy sometimes, and he has the lowest of lows and just feels sad and depressed sometimes. And if you are somebody like that sometimes you just get so happy and sometimes you just feel sad, you know what? You have a good company in David. David is just like that. David sometimes feels overjoyed. He's sometimes overwhelmed with joy from God. Sometimes he feels really sad. But you know what he does? He does the same thing with both. He goes to God with them. When he's sad, he doesn't pretend he's not sad. He cries up to God and says, this is why I'm sad, God. I'm sad, and I feel like there's too much pressure on me. I feel like everybody's against me. I feel like I'm this. I feel like I'm that. And at the end, he always has an uptick of but I will put my trust in you, God, because I know that you're going to come through. Even though I don't feel it right now, I know that you're going to come through, God. But so he has these ups and downs, but we're going to be entering a down area of David's life because he just gets fed up. I'll give you a little preview here in chapter 27, verse 1. David says in his heart, now I shall perish someday by the hand of Saul. There's nothing better for me that I should speedily escape. So he goes, this is going to be my life now. This is the third time that he's claimed that he's not trying to kill me anymore. Remember the first time was when Saul told Jonathan. When Jonathan's like, Dad, he's not, why are we trying to kill him? Second time is after the cave. Third time is here on the hilltop. And David's like, this is going to be my life. This is going to be forever. I'm eventually going to die. And he's forgetting one important thing. What is he forgetting? God's not going to let it happen. Remember, they were on the mountain, on the same side of the mountain. And Saul was circling around the mountain, going to pursue David. And God worked it out so that Saul had to turn around. God protected David the whole time. God would not let anything happen to David. But David can't get this through his mind right now because he's letting his emotions get in the way. He's acting kind of childish and being like, this is it. Forget it. I don't want to do this anymore. And so, unfortunately, we're going to see he gets in a pretty bad way for a little while. But that's next time. I will see you later.